Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I know all of y'all are excited about what's taking place today. Across the street over in the Senate, I am not a senator. I wish I could be over there and ask a few questions to Mr. Comey, but the Senate has decided that the House cannot come over there and interfere with their hearing today. But I am Ted Poe, a member of Congress from the state of Texas. It is an honor to be here today. I am proud to say that I am the chairman, co-chairman of the Georgia caucus along with Emanuel Cleaver from Missouri. And we are, both of us are proud to be the chairs of the Georgia caucus. And it is our goal to make sure that we promote Georgia and the United States working together in freedom on all levels, especially economic levels. My opinion, Georgia, where it is located, it's not in a real good neighborhood, surrounded by folks that are kind of hostile, especially to freedom, economic freedom and political freedom as well. And Georgia is really a beacon of hope in that region for other nations, but it's also, I think, a beacon for countries in the West, like the United States. You're to be commended for that. In 2008, as you all know, or as I should say, all y'all know, that's plural for y'all if you're from Texas. As all y'all know, Georgia was invaded by the Russian bear. Putin, the Napoleon of Siberia, as I like to call him, just decided it's time to go and invade Georgia. So what happened? About a third of the Georgian territory was occupied by Russia. I was there in 2008, the week after the Russians invaded. And I saw the Russian tanks on the hill. I saw the damage created by Russians. And once again, this is just my opinion. When the world saw what happened, the West basically said, that is not appropriate. That is not nice to go invade another country. But really not anything of consequence occurred to Russia for that. The reason Russia decided to pick Georgia as the first former Soviet country to invade was because Georgia was the most democratic. And if Georgia could be stopped leaning to the West, then other nations, former Soviet republics, could be stopped as well. That is my opinion of why Georgia was picked first. As I said in 2008, it's not over. And Russia has its sights on other former republics. And guess what happened? Crimea, Eastern Ukraine, and Georgia is, or the Soviet Union, Russia, is still looking at other areas to, I think, occupy when that opportunity arises. So that is why Georgia is important and why it is important that Georgia remain the strong democracy, the beacon of hope in that region, and stay strong because of the influence of Russia, not only in Georgia, but everywhere in the world. We see the Russians in their influence, trying to exert their influence. Georgia is to be commended for standing strong. As Kim mentioned, Georgia not only economically stands with the United States, but on the battlefield, where coalition forces, the United States, and non-NATO allies like Georgia are there. And Georgia does not talk. Georgia has sent its young men to fight on the battlefields alongside Americans and are still standing strong with Americans. People in the United States need to understand that Georgia is more than talk. They are at action. And when countries go to battle together to fight tyranny, and young men and women fight together, some die and shed blood together, that creates a greater bond between the two nations. And that has occurred with the United States and Georgia. As a member of Congress, a former member of the United States Air Force, thank you. Thank you for making that decision to stand with freedom on the battlefields of the world. And Georgia is to be commended for that. So we're a military partner, we're an economic partner. As Kim pointed out, there are about 190 countries in the world. Give or take, 2 or 3, depending on what day of the week you count those, because some come and go, as you know. And of that 190, Georgia is ranked in the top 20 for economic development. That's a good thing. That's a real good thing, and Georgia's to be commended for that. I strongly believe that the United States needs to develop more trade with Georgia and back and forth. Countries that trade together, countries that are intertwined economically, are countries that are stronger together. And free economies, the economy grows in both countries when that occurs. And the political relationship is stronger because the economic relationship is stronger. And I support a free trade agreement between the United States and Georgia. I started to say a free trade agreement between the Republic of Texas and Georgia, but I really mean the United States and Georgia. And I hope that we get that developed to strengthen the bond between the two countries, and also to let other nations like Russia understand that the United States is going to stay and stand with Georgia in the future. There'd be no doubt about that. And if people doubt that, if Russia doubts it, other countries doubt it, even if Georgia doubts it, don't doubt it anymore, because the economic relationship is going to continue. Georgia's had free elections. Georgia, like any democracy, has problems, has issues. But working with the United States, we can solve those issues, internal issues of a democracy like Georgia. Countries that are not democracies really don't have any problems, because whoever's in charge solves all of those problems and makes all those decisions. But when people are in control, like in a democracy, then you have issues, economic issues that have to be resolved, corruption issues that have to be resolved. And we'll work on those. Democracies must work together to solve those problems. I could talk forever. I won't do that, I promise. I see this clock up here and it's flashing. Let me just say this. Thank you for inviting me. I love the folks in Georgia. And when I was there, and I've been there 3 times now, it's just a neat place to be. The people of Georgia are remarkable people. Where they are, with the influences, hostile influences around them, going to stand strong for freedom and democracy. And the government officials are to be commended for that, but so are the people. In closing, I'd like to just repeat something that John F. Kennedy said a long time ago in his inaugural address. And I think it applies to the relationship between Georgia and the United States. He said, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and success of liberty. That is our relationship with Georgia, and we will support Georgia in the future with those words of President John F. Kennedy. And that's just the way it is. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Bakradze. I'm an ambassador of Georgia, and I'm really pleased and honored to be here to, first of all, celebrate the 25 years of our diplomatic relations, 26 years after regaining Georgia's independence, 99 years since the first establishment of the Republic in Georgia. And we are really happy that we got a very strong support from the Heritage Foundation, from the GMF to start and initial the conference of this kind, which will demonstrate, which will underline, which will dedicate time to discuss the very good bilateral relations between the United States and Georgia. I want to express my gratitude to those who has been involved in this, in the preparation of this event, and I definitely look forward to the very interesting open discussion. As this year we celebrate the 25 years of diplomatic relations that has transformed Georgia from assistance and our relations from assistance and cooperation into the strategic partnership, and with extensive cooperation in the past placing emphasis on exploring possibilities for further strengthening our bilateral relations. We are confident that this event will give even more impetus to this partnership and give us a lot of topics for the future to discuss and to explore. After the collapse of Soviet Union, Georgian people have made a very firm choice towards democratic development. Throughout the history, Georgia has been part of European civilization and has been sharing the values of the Euro-Atlantic Western values. And this has not been an easy choice, but this is the right choice that has been made. And this has been easy in the sense that we have had a very strong support from our friends. From our friends like United States and from our friends that we see here in this room, and we thank you for this continuous support. Because the success of Georgia, and we will have quite a good opportunity with the distinguished panel, members of whom I am grateful for their active participation. We will have a good opportunity to discuss where we are coming from and where we are heading, how successful Georgia was during these 25 years, and what can be done to improve. I thank you, Dr. Holmes, for mentioning the Georgia's success in economic index, and I think even after being number 13, there is quite some space to improve our position. I want to thank Congressman Poe for very emotional and very, let's say, good remarks about his experience with Georgia. And we are really lucky to have friends like you, to have friends who understand Georgia and who feel this country, who feel its challenges, who understand its challenges, but also sees very good opportunities and possibilities for these bilateral relations. So I think that generally only analyzing past it is possible to move forward, and therefore I'm grateful to Minister, to National Security Advisor, to the Vice President, to ambassadors, distinguished guests, all of you who are here to participate in this very important event. I am sure that it will mark a start of the very interesting discussion that we plan to have on an annual basis. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you. Good morning. It's really great to be here today and to see so many friends of Georgia. We are celebrating very important date in our relations, 25 years of diplomatic ties between Georgia and the United States. And those 25 years have been excellent in two nations' relations. I am honored to be discussing this timely topic with such a esteemed group of panelists, as well as the experts and people interested in Georgia and in U.S.-Georgia relations. First of all, I would like to once again express our appreciation to Heritage Foundation and German Marshall Fund for all the support which has been provided by those foundations to Georgia, the interest provided to the Georgia-U.S. relations, and for the organization of today's event and hosting us today. That shows how active the Georgian issue is in the expert society, in the political circles, and in D.C. In general. So we believe that Georgia and United States achieved excellent level of cooperation during this and partnership during this 25 years, and it was first of all based on friendship. This is the most important concept and central here. Our friendship took root in the early 90s as Georgia moved away from a totalitarian regime, and our people chose the path of democracy and free market economy. So there was a lot said about Georgia's progress on democracy and market economy, but it was actually the wish of Georgian people to move this path on this path, and the great support which we received from the United States to achieve the progress we are having today. So that progress which we have would not be possible if there was no support from the United States. And that support was, first of all, political support, financial, and technical assistance. America and American people provided more than 4 billion USD assistance to Georgia. But I would say that every dollar spent in Georgia has its value, and actually it can be said that today Georgia is ready to offer more opportunities to United States, to U.S. economy, to U.S. business, and to show that this assistance provided to Georgia was not something which is lost. First of all, it was provided to help promote values, and Georgia is now promoting the same values as the United States has, and we share those values. And we believe that we are together contributing to the international peace, security, stability, and development. We have achieved also great progress during this last 26 years since regaining independence on European and Euro-Atlantic integration path. And that progress also has been achieved through very strong support of the United States. Today we are proud to be the EU-associated country, so we are not anymore like a country related to Soviet space, but we are already positioned and branded and also factually the EU-associated country. So which gives us an opportunity to be politically, sectorally, and also trade-wise integrated with the EU in the family of free nations. And actually from this year on, from March on, we are also able to travel freely to the EU. So that brings Georgian people closer to its historical actually habitat and the family to which we belonged always, and believe that we'll need to be a full-fledged member of this family in the future, the European family. And this family is part of the Euro-Atlantic big family, which is the actually the most important destination for Georgia. We believe that Euro-Atlantic security can benefit with having Georgia closer and inside the organization and in the alliance. And we are continuing our very active work towards our membership in NATO. So this is another direction we are taking together with the United States and with the help of the United States. And today we are quite successful in implementing all the practical steps, instruments, which brings us closer to NATO and to our membership in NATO. We have hosted just recently a NATO Parliamentary Assembly session in Georgia, which is not something usual. So there were only 4 countries before Georgia, non-NATO countries, which have hosted this kind of event, and they are now in the organization. So we believe that Georgia can also join this organization in the future with the support of the United States. We are happy that the relations which have been established during these 25 years continues very actively with the new administration. We had many high-level meetings already in the beginning of the work of the new administration. Prime Minister had an excellent meeting with the Vice President, with the President, also with Secretary of State, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Treasury, and actually we discussed next steps in our bilateral relations. So we want to build on this very positive experience and case we built with each other, and we want to develop further our strategic partnership. And what is next? What we want to see in our relations? First of all, we will work on all the directions of the strategic partnership and the established format we have with the United States, but we will draw special attention to defense and security. We have been receiving from the United States huge support to our defense and security field, but now we are concentrated on building Georgia's deterrence capabilities through the implementation of Georgia Readiness Program. So it's to make Georgia resilient towards the threats and to make the democracy and economic development sustainable and a country able to defend itself. At the same time, we are deepening our security cooperation. There was an agreement signed on the exchange of relevant security information. So this is again sign how deep our cooperation is in that field. Another important area where we work together is trade and economy. As it has been already mentioned, Georgia has achieved a lot in making Georgia attractive for international business, for business in general, by having an open and liberal economic policy and liberal business environment. And we believe that we can be a very good place for U.S. companies to be and to do business, not only with Georgia, but from Georgia with the region. We believe that there is a huge potential in that direction, and we have already quite many investments from the United States. We have representative of OPIC here, and OPIC has invested more than 500 million in Georgia in different large projects, and we hope that those investments will continue, and private sector supported by the government will continue to invest and do business in Georgia. We have to talk I don't want to take many time, but we want to talk, I want to talk also about the challenge we are facing. And this is the occupation of our territory. 20% of our territory remains to be occupied. We are trying to find all the opportunities to solve the conflict with the Russian Federation in a peaceful way, and only through diplomatic channels. And this is the only way which government of Georgia is taking. We have unilaterally taken a pledge of non-use of force, and we work in the Geneva format, and we work in all international organizations to make sure that Russia is kept accountable for its aggressive actions and all the violations they are undertaking. We hope that U.S. will continue its active role in finding peaceful ways for conflict resolution. U.S. role has been always instrumental, including in 2008 to make sure that Georgia survived from the even larger scale intervention into Georgia, and since then we have very strong vocal and important support from the United States. Not only from the U.S. administration, but also from Congress. We have very strong bipartisan support in Congress, and it has been even more visible during the last year and during this year, when first time we saw the issue of occupation of Georgia's territories fixed in the U.S. legislation, in the Appropriations Act. That was very strong signal coming from the United States, supportive to Georgia's territorial integrity and sovereignty, and also helping in mobilizing the international community towards this issue. And we believe that with this very clear and committed actions, we will be able to find ways for peaceful conflict resolution. Georgia, I would like to finish with one major issue. So Georgia is today a reliable partner for the United States in the region. We will remain to be important and reliable partner in the future, and not only in regional terms, but also globally. So we are proud that we are contributing today to the international peace and security together with the United States, and we will continue doing that. And our strategic partnership will only strengthen in the future. So I want to thank you all for the interest in Georgia, and I'm sure there are many questions, and I look forward to this opportunity to answer to your questions. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'd like to thank Kim and the Heritage Foundation for hosting us this morning, and really thank my partners here in the room, my friends of Georgia, celebrating 25 years of our relationship between U.S. and Georgia. And to echo some points that were made this morning with Kim, with Congressman Poe, and with Foreign Minister on some of the successes, early successes in this administration. And if anyone asks what is the administration stance on Georgia, I think it's very clear how strongly this administration values our relationship with the government of Georgia and the people of Georgia. You know, it seems like some days it feels like I've been in the job for a few days, and sometimes it feels like I've been in the job for a few years. But early on, know that my boss, the vice president, as we've said, has already met with the Prime Minister a couple of times. Our first trip overseas, over to the Munich Security Conference, the first trip out of the gates in early February. In February, we met with the Prime Minister, and then again had the honor to host him at the White House last month. Had a great session, a great dialogue there in the White House, to include a session with President Trump in the Oval Office. So again, early in the administration, we've already had very significant dialogue and engagement with our friends of Georgia. I was also very honored just a few weeks ago in Bratislava. I had the honor of spending time and having a bilateral engagement and great discussions with the Prime Minister as we both spoke on a panel at the Globsec conference in Slovakia. So again, in only a few weeks and months in the administration, we've had multiple engagements with our friends. I think, the high-level engagements really are an indicator of how important the partnership is, and we'll talk more about that, I think, and look forward to questions later on our relationship. But really, as the Congressman said, as the Foreign Minister has said, our shared democratic values really underpin the relations. At the end of the day, it is about shared democratic values. That's why Georgia continues to get the strong support from the U.S. We've also talked about the contributions in the security spectrum. I am an old soldier, as Derek alluded to, 28 years serving in the Army, and it was my great honor to serve with the soldiers of Georgia. Most of my time with them was spent in Afghanistan, shoulder to shoulder with them. I was there from 2009 to 10 and have seen the steadfast leadership, loyalty, discipline, patriotism, perseverance of these troops that continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with us today. And I think sometimes people forget that. If I'm not mistaken, it's the largest troop contributor to that operation from a non-NATO country, the largest troop contributor. So just something else to think about while we're here this morning. Obviously, we've talked about it in the halls of Congress. We've talked about it in the White House about the importance of standing firm on supporting Georgia on their sovereignty and territorial integrity. I'd imagine we'll talk more about that this morning in the Q&A as well. And we support the decision to pursue integration into the Euro-Atlantic Alliance. Derek we've talked about the Vice President's remarks on Monday at the Atlantic Council dinner as we welcomed our newest member to NATO, to Montenegro, welcome them into the club, if you will. And we look forward to that door is open and continue to work towards NATO integration, and I think we'll probably talk about that this morning. We applaud the reforms that have been made. We've talked about both in the economic sector, judicial reform, and a myriad of sectors where it continues to move forward, and we've seen the results of that. So we've talked about the economic, the vibrancy in the world, not only in the region, but in the world. So it's a great honor. I'll keep my remarks, the opening remarks, brief today, because I really would be more interested in hearing from panel mates and more so from the audience at large. So thank you so much for this invitation.